Alright, hello and welcome to this week's new riveting art video. So this week we'll be tackling Inktober Wink 1 prompts 1 through 5. I'm super excited. Are you guys excited? Oh my gosh, this is my first time doing Inktober. And you know, you haven't seen any of the drawings yet, but I'm pleasantly surprised. I think artists tend to expect the worst. So let's just go ahead and jump into drawing 1. Alright, so prompt 1 was ring. And of course my first instinct was to draw like a ring that you wear on your finger. I thought about, you know, the sound of a ring, like bells ring and phones ring. And then all of a sudden the phrase like, oh, my ears are ringing, or oh, I bet your ears are burning right now, like kind of came into mind. And so I thought about drawing a character in the middle surrounded by all of these mouths and the phrase my ears are ringing up on top. I ultimately decided to do that because I felt like it had a little bit more of a contextual sort of vibe and feel to it, and it was a little less literal. You'll notice throughout all of these prompts in the weeks to come, I struggle with just letting myself draw what I want to draw. I keep thinking I needed to come up with some sort of elaborate thing, and some of my interpretations of the prompts are very contextual while some are very literal, and I think that's okay. Also, if you're curious about the references I used for any of the people, I always draw people with a reference. I will put a link to my drawing reference Pinterest board in the description, just to give credit where credit is due. So if you're interested in finding any of my references or drawing from the models, then feel free to check out that link. So I honestly think out of all the prompts this week, this one might be my favorite. So we really started with a bang and it really got my spirits high and inspired me to just keep on doing it. Alright, prompt for the day number 2 was mindless. I had a couple of ideas that were a little more serious and whatnot, but I decided to go with something a little humorous because I felt like most of my other days throughout the month are probably going to be a little bit more serious and like moody. So I decided to do something kind of fun, and I'd never drawn a brain before, and I was like, you know what, let's just, go for it. So I decided to do like a lost poster that you would usually do for like your lost dog, and do a lost brain. And I really love drawing like little pieces of paper with the folded corners. It's really fun. And then like the little pieces of tape were a nice addition in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's funny. I like the little part where I say, last scene trying to do math. I was trying to think of something funny to put there, last scene. I was trying to make, you know how people say like, oh, you lost your mind when somebody like falls in love or something. I don't know. I was trying to come up with some kind of pun for that, and I literally sat for like 20 minutes like on Pinterest looking up brain puns and stuff, and I couldn't find anything that like fit for me, so I ended up sticking with the doing math. Alright, prompt for day number 3. This one was bait. Now this was one of the ones where I initially could only think of very literal ideas, like with hooks and the such. I thought of like a worm on a hook, putting a mermaid on a hook. All of it I felt like had been done. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't know, I wasn't happy with what I was coming up with, and I ended up going for a much more conceptual idea. I thought about how sometimes people can bait you into relationships, and like, they can manipulate you and bait you with these promises and with sweet talking and stuff like that. So yeah, I decided to draw this moody looking broski with some long hair and bags under his eyes. And then I really love drawing banners, and I was kind of wanting an excuse to draw a banner. And it says, "Don't tempt me with promises you won't keep." So I thought about saying, "Don't bait me with promises you won't keep," just to keep it on theme. But I was like, you know what? I think, people are smarter than they give themselves credit for. I feel like I didn't need to put the word bait into the little, quote. I don't know. And that quote, I just came up with it out of my brain. It's not from anything in particular. And then, lastly, I do have, once again, on my Pinterest board, the guy that I referenced for this drawing. So yeah, I was actually really happy with how this came out. Putting in the little white pen, little details, I felt like kind of elevated a little bit. It was a little kind of boring before. I don't know. Maybe it was just me. Alright, so the day 4 prompt. Yeah, we're on day 4. This one was freeze. And I had some funny ideas for this one, but, sometimes things are funny and you want to do it, and sometimes they're funny, but then you're like, eh. And so this is one of those days where I did kind of a more cliche drawing. Sometimes I'm conceptual, sometimes I'm cliche. And I thought about doing an iceberg where you can see the top of it and then the bottom sticking out through the water. And I thought it was a really fun opportunity to play with contrast. I tried to make it a little bit different and a little less stereotypical by kind of depicting the iceberg in this sort of geometric shape thing. You can see what I'm doing here. And then the little fish around it. It's the overall composition is very been done before. But I tried to put my own little spin on it, I really liked how I depicted the water by the iceberg being darker below and then having the super black night sky. I don't know. Even though this has definitely been done before, not the most unique, I'm kind of really happy with how it turned out. Alright, so day 5, the last one for this video. So the prompt for this day is build. I felt like I obviously needed to do something with buildings. My brain was like, do a portrait, find a way to make this into a portrait, because I tend to shy away from doing buildings and architecture as much as possible, but I forced myself to persevere and do it anyway because I need to practice, and I'll never do it if I don't practice. So this overall composition is actually based on something I did in high school about 4 years ago now. But I kind of wanted to revisit it. It was one of my favorite drawings that I'd done for my AP art class in high school. But there were a few things about it that didn't sit well with me. I felt like it was a little too 2D, and I was like, you know what? Let's try it again this time. I think on this drawing what I struggled with the most was maintaining contrast. I found that a lot of the buildings were the same shade of gray as the background sky, and there wasn't enough contrast there for me. So you'll watch me kind of battle with that here in the painting process. But I think at the end of the day, I really like how it turned out. I would like to do it again, but in color sometime. I think one thing I would have done is leave one of the buildings white, very white. But once I added the windows, I felt like that made a big difference. It really helped, by adding that pattern in there, it helped the building stand out from the similar toned sky. And I also really liked doing that kind of dome shape for the sky rather than just doing a square. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Alright, so thank you so much for watching this week's Inktober drawings. Make sure you come back next Monday to see all of next week's prompts.
there will be 7 drawings in that video, not just 5, because it is a full week. Also, a lot of these drawings will be available on Redbubble to order as a t-shirt, a mug, an art print, stickers, all of the above. So make sure to check out that link in the description as well as in the comments section. So without further ado, thank you so much for watching, and tune in next week for another riveting art video.